Hi everyone, my name is Ahmed Amran. I am a strength coach, nutrition coach, and health and fitness professional. Today I would like to talk about a very interesting topic, which is hormones and how they are affected during the month of Ramadan. So now, three of the main hormones that I'd like to talk about are serotonin, ghrelin, and cortisol. At the very end, I would like to discuss how we can help regulate them, how to help fix any issues that might be happening during this month. So to start with, I like to start with serotonin, which I like to call the happy/angry hormone. The reason why is that serotonin, when it's low in the body, it actually creates maybe negative thoughts, more irritability, more sweet cravings, and it can also lead to depression and anxiety. Naturally, when we don't eat as much throughout the day, our serotonin levels drop. And this is most commonly seen in Ramadan when it comes to kind of the road rage. So this is a nice example I like to use. So whenever you've been cut off on the road after a long day at work and you feel kind of angry, maybe frustrated, and have kind of a short temper, that is serotonin playing a role in your body. So it's a very interesting concept because most people think that you're just angry because you haven't eaten, but it's actually hormones that are playing a role when it comes to this. So basically what happens is when you're low on serotonin, it becomes more difficult for your brain to control your levels of emotion, which is anger. The next topic I would like to discuss is ghrelin. So what I like to call the hunger hormone. Now, basically what ghrelin does in the body, it increases your appetite and probably increases your food intake as well. So it is the most high just before a meal. So how is that affected during the month of Ramadan? Well, our bodies are kind of like a certain specific pattern. So when we start to cut it off from certain foods, it has to kind of adapt and kind of fix itself. So what ends up happening is during the normal times where you usually used to eat, ghrelin starts to increase during that time. So let's say you would have breakfast at 8 and then lunch at 1. During those two times, ghrelin will start to increase and you will feel that sense of hunger. Now that usually only happens maybe the first week, maybe the first few days of Ramadan, and that's pretty common. And that's why you would feel like that's the most difficult time. This also happens at the very end of Ramadan, maybe the last week, when your body is a little bit more fatigued, it requires more nutrients, it asks you to absorb more nutrients and more water and more things in the body. So that's why you will find that naturally it's going to be much more difficult for you to have more energy, to just move a little bit more during that last week of Ramadan. And then finally, one of the most important hormones in the body is cortisol. So cortisol is what I like to call the stress hormone. In terms of what it does, it helps regulate stress in the body. Now, when it comes to how it is affected during the month of Ramadan, so fasting naturally is a stressor. So is exercise, so is anything that you do, so is work, right? So what I would like people to start to think about is that when you do something like an extended period of fasting, it does cause stress in the body. And naturally, what ends up happening is that cortisol increases. Now, this is where most people like to call like the stress belly. And that's what cortisol naturally does. It kind of provides fat or recirculates fat in the body to kind of more in the abdominal region. So if you've ever experienced that and if you ever have that, cortisol could be something that is being affected. Now, how to deal with cortisol specifically is that any stress is good if it is in a short duration. So keep in mind that exercise is a stressor, but the reason why it becomes more beneficial is that it's a short period of time that your body recovers and adapts from. And it could be the same thing when it comes to fasting. Like, that's why we only do it for a month, because it is a stressor on the body and it can be more fatiguing and tiring. So how to deal with all these hormones and help regulate them? The number one thing that I've noticed when it comes to this is becoming more aware. So the mind is a very powerful tool. When you think something, it actually becomes reality. So I like to tell people awareness is the first step to change. And when you become more aware of your anger during this month, it actually starts to make you more aware, and you go like, okay, this is not actually me acting out, it's more my body and my hormones playing a role, and naturally that helps regulate itself. Serotonin and ghrelin are the same thing, becoming more aware, and then finding ways to become more stress-free and managing your stress. So take getting a good night's sleep, eating well and a lot of nutrient-dense foods. Another thing is actually having a meditation or resting practice like praying. That helps kind of reset the body, reset your stress levels, and helps you deal with all these hormones. Thank you very much, and Ramadan Kareem.